Hopefully, this is working. Why is that not working? Right. There must have been some kind of delay, but there's not anymore. My heart. I'm too old for this game. I thought it was there was going to be a technical issue. Fingers crossed. So, who's that? Top of 69, I think. Welcome. Evening. Yeah, wrong. Evening, Adrian. Can't see who that is. But I will just address some questions because we're going to have a slightly different live tonight. I've got a big announcement, a massive announcement that I'm going to give you in 60 seconds or so. Because let's face it, my time of life, 60 seconds is the best you're going to get from me. We're going to do the massive announcement. And we're going to do a bit of a Q&A. We've got some stuff to talk about that's been happening today. Oh, we've had two prime ministers and a possible prospective prime minister on their feet, giving it laldy. It's a Scots word meaning lively today. So, Carl Bassett, welcome, Adrian. You're wrong. And from Carl and Irene in Bridgend. Carl and Irene, lovely part of the world, if I may be so bold. To Aid Blackmore, oh, hello. I've been playing my guitar. The Beatles, help. I need somebody. Help. Anybody. Help. Andy Sinsky, evening, you bunch of wrong-uns. And Andy Sinsky says, Nella's out, Adrian. Out. Last vote. Nigel to win, please. Oh, wouldn't that be funny? Or if he comes fourth, then definitely it's a setup. But if he wins or comes second, I mean, if he could be... Sam Thompson... He's getting okay reportage in the news cycle, so the newspapers quite like him. Do they want him to beat Nige? But you can't. Nige is always a man that he has a bit of good luck about him. Especially all that money he made from shorting the NatWest stock. Mr. John Up. Good evening, Adrian. You're wrong, and good evening to all tuning in. To Rusty Mouse. Hey, Rusty Mouse, I think I've got one of your comments coming up tonight because we're going to go back to doing some comments, which I haven't done in ages and ages and ages. Rusty Mouse, does anyone know what Meghan's big announcement was? Did we miss it? Yeah, you might have done. The big announcement that they said she was going to make was back 2 weeks ago. November 17th, I looked on my reportage, doing my research, and she was going to make a big announcement as to what she and Harry are up to. Well, we know what they're up to at Christmas. Staying in America. Let's talk about the royals in just a little while, but I did have a think. Wasn't it Diana who wanted to have an American court, an American royal court, or a royal court in America? So she could have the equivalent to Charles in America. And bugger me if the ginger one is not doing exactly the same thing. He wants to have a royal court to rival and equal Big Willie style. I wonder where Brillo hair got that idea from. And I have to say, if I was close to Harry and if I was a mate, which I'm not, I would be saying to him, look, Harry, mate, your missus is in her mid-40s, 42 showbiz age, 46 real age. Showbiz age, my hairy backside. So, Harry is 40 next birthday. Just get rid of the Brillo pad, man. It looks like a dead chihuahua on your head. Get rid. It's not impressing anybody, including your missus. I mean, can you imagine? Well, no, I better not, because we could go down a real rabbit hole there. But every time I see, there was the cover of that magazine where he was very green, wearing very green clothes, and a bit of a Brillo pad on his head, but it had been photoshopped. And you look at it when it's like out in the wild, and it's like, hang on, I can see the top of his buns. He's going bald, the old bagger. 40-year-old going bald. Harry, mate, man, give it up. Give it up. That's what you said to your brother. When your brother shaved it all off, you couldn't wait to take the mickey out of him. Well, let's all laugh at Harry. So, Rusty Mouse, I've no idea what a big announcement was. She was like, oh, we're up to stuff. We're up to stuff. Brilliant, Megan, brilliant. Hope you're happy. Rest of the royal family going to be at Sandringham for Christmas. Mr. John up. Hello, Carl Bassett and Irene from Cardiff. MacArthur Glen, good place to shop and have lunch. Cole Blimey, will you be gentle with me tonight? There's loads of comments. Bovril, good evening. Who will rid me of this pestilence called Parliament, the wrong'uns? I know, it's been a day and a half today. Politics. The entertainment arm of the military-industrial complex, or, if you wish, entertainment for ugly people. Talker 69, evening, you wrong'un. Evening, Talker 69. Simon John Lavender, evening, Adrian. Dame Anna, oh, hello, Dame Anna, welcome. Dame Anna is in the building, you wrong'uns. To Marie, evening, Marie, thank you very kindly. Terry Wookford, evening, all, what's going on here then? Well, none of us have been arrested so far, Terry, but, you know, the night is young. Norman Taylor. Evening, Boris cannot make it, but sends his apologies. I've got a great Boris gag coming up later. It's made me raw all day. Proper all day. Including this thing that he was doing at the COVID inquiry. Can I ask, well, I'm going to get to the detail about Boris in just a little while, because I watched that inquiry thingy today. Hugo Keith. That KC, King's Counsel, he's brutal. Do you know that Hugo was Hugo Keith? He was counsel for the Queen. What was he counsel for the Queen? It'll come to me in a second. But I watched that inquiry all day today, and I watched Sweller, stick the knife in Rishi. And I understand, if anybody knows, somebody's just resigned from the cabinet, haven't they? Just as I was starting, somebody's resigned from the cabinet. Letters have gone into the 1922 committee, because, to use a technical term, all the Tory MPs are shizing themselves because they believe they're going to be deselected. No more Tory party after the general election, and it looks like it's going to be May, as predicted on this here channel ages ago. I mean, it's easy to see what's going to go on. It's going to be a hung parliament. Not a very well hung parliament from the rumours I hear, but it's going to be a hung parliament. So we will talk about that. I just want to get you your toes and your feet under the table. Where was that? Yeah, Dame Anna. Thank you, Dame Anna. Marie Magaloff Tracy. Terry Wookford, right, got that. Yep. Norman, Vivian Kenyon. Happy Wednesday, Adrian. Good to see you. Viv and Darlow. God's country, Viv. Mad Matt UK. Good evening, Adrian. I hope you are well. Thank you, Mad Matt. I think I've got one of your comments coming up a little bit later. Talker 69. Did you see Cruella Braverman's speech? Oh, yes, I did. Now, it wasn't... Oh, what was the when Maggie was in charge? Who was the politician who was like dead dull? But they likened his speech to Parliament as like being ravaged by a dead sheep. Oh, I can see him, but I can't remember his name. Hang on. Dan Payne, evening, yeah, wrong'un. Leeds, evening, Adrian. Leeds versus Sunderland next Tuesday. Stadium is shite at the minute, Leeds. I have to say, we haven't even got a bloody manager. We haven't got a striker. So you probably put 6 past us, and we won't score a goal. Honestly, they couldn't score in a brothel with a £50 note, my side at the minute. Did I say that out loud? The Bovril, someone split on him. Dan Payne, was the stabbing in South Wales religious? From the reportage that I've seen, no. He was known to she. He, Romanian, I think. The newspapers are being because they know that society is a tinderbox at the minute. So they just don't. They don't give you. Look, we're adults. Let us make our own mind up, for crying out loud. No, they won't. And to Tower Block, Tracy, Boogie You, Big Willie style. Oh, that image is too much. Yeah. You'll scream my name in the middle of the night. Stephen Hall, evening. Paul Flint, oh. Tower Block, Tracy, for the Queen, for Di's inquest. Oh, yes, of course, yes. I was saying Hugo Keith was the KC for the Queen. At Di's inquest, and you know that they returned unlawful killing at Di's inquest. Hugo, some boy. I mean, he's just... That suit's expensive. That suit that Hugo Keith, KC, is wearing is a very expensive suit. So it's just understated. But where's his silks? He hasn't got his silk tie on. Wrong 'un. He's got some pink thing going on. Pinky orange thing. Or my eyesight shot. One of the two. Bovril flirting with Tower Block Tracy. Paul Flint. Also Tower Block Tracy. Oh, thank you, Terry Wookfit. Robert Jenk. Is he Jenrick? Why can't it be called Smith or something? So Robert Jenrick is resigned. Oh, I'm spitting my dummy. What's he doing that for? He's only just got the job a couple of weeks ago. Spitting my dummy, I'm flouncing off. I'm an MP. So he's flounced off. Nobody else there. Mad Matt UK, I think it's a crying shame about ex-RAF Scampton. I agree with you, Mad Matt. Home of the Red Arrows, and then they move them somewhere else, and now they've got illegals in there. Right, I'll get to that in a minute, but I've got a big announcement. Can't even have a bloody fanfare. I haven't got one fanfare. So, I've been trying to... Warren Francis, yo, Adrian, bud. Yeah, wrong on Warren. Paul Flint. Paul's got man flu. It seems to be going around, Paul. Don't know whether you've been kissing the girls or kissing anybody, but it's going around. So, oh yeah, you haven't been kissing Piers Morgan, have you? He tested positive for you know, the Kung Flu, Chinese takeaway. Dan Pien, I was worried there's no coverage on the attacker on these main media sites. It's good to have a man on the inside, as it were. It's only because I look, I know the game. I know what they do. They don't tell us anything. So I just scour the news sites all day, just going, oh, right, a bit of jigsaw, we'll stick that there, and oh, got a bit more, I'll stick that one there. They gave his full name out, but I had heard it was a Romanian guy. I know, Eddie, you can't say absolutely naff all nowadays. Otherwise, you get accused of all sorts. So, big announcement before we get in. I've been scouring my archive for, and I said this on Sunday, my mate Leighton Morris was on. Leighton James used to work with me at Real Radio in South Wales. Great footballer, top man, by the way. And Leighton Morris was my oppo, was my phone op in the East Midlands at Century 106, and he's a fabulous bloke. Fabulous. I was at his wedding. I mean, can you imagine? And I was going to tell you the story about me and Leighton turning up. And somebody said, oh, come down to the car boot sale. I can't remember where it was. Leighton will know. So I said, yeah, I'll come down. And it was just a car boot sale, a little car boot sale. With a little bit of market to it, and I said to Leighton, look, I don't know where I'm going. You're going to have to come and be me minder. You're going to have to be me protector. Literally, thousands of people turned up to see me at this car boot sale. I mean, at one point I was trapped with people going, ugh, ugh. Not in a nasty way, but just in a nice way. They wanted to see the the ranting madman, and Leighton was there with me. And at the end of it, we just roared well after. It's like, Leighton, you could have told me all these people were going to turn up. And the organisers were like, Adrian, we didn't realise all these people were going to turn up. So that was Leighton. And the reason why I mentioned Leighton is because I'm sure, well, it would have been Leighton, 24th of December 1999. I did a phone-in, as well as all the other stuff that's in my archive, which will become available in time. That we did this phone-in with a very special guest. It was a lunchtime phone-in, only lasted an hour, and there were kids all over the East Midlands, children, weeping and wailing. Why? Because Father Christmas could only spare me an hour. I mean, obviously, Christmas Eve, he's getting the sled packed, all the elves are running around like little mad things, like Oompa Loompas, and, you know, I think somebody was feeding the reindeer. But I have to say, it was one of the most magical pieces of radio I've ever had the honour and privilege to be part of. So basically, we managed to get a landline to Father Christmas at the North Pole, and he took calls from children for an hour. And look, call me a soppy old tart if you wish, but like, Christmas is for the bands, for the kids. And the magic in their voices, and you can hear on some of the calls, you can hear the parents in the background going, speak to Father Christmas, and the children are obviously like, oh, Father Christmas, what do I do? Oh, I did that thing, he might say you've been naughty, but obviously didn't. And I'm not going to go into kind of the nuts and bolts in the back on how we created this magic, because one day I might want to do it on YouTube. And if anybody nicks the idea, I'll be coming around kicking your door off the hinges. The magic and the wonderment and the sort of the unspoken understanding between me, Father Christmas, obviously, and the parents. And it was just to allow the little ones their moment with Father Christmas. Because remember, radio is the theatre of the mind. So the children couldn't see him, but could hear him. And they were able to talk to him and say what they wanted for Christmas. And just... So at the beginning, I got a bit choked. And at the end, you'll hear, because I'm not a ranting madman all the time, I genuinely got quite touched. In fact, I don't think I've ever been touched on the radio. But it was just... Oh, it was just magical. So what we've done, the big announcement, the big reveal, 2:00 this coming Sunday. We're going to premiere it on the channel. We did think about doing it from the 1st of December, but look, I've heard Christmas songs whilst I'm wandering around, and it's too soon. I didn't want to do too much. So we're going to stick. It's not quite an hour because we've had to take the ads and some of the bits out and edit it all down to something that I hope you will find magical, that I hope stays on YouTube for the millennia. But for me, if you're not a cynical old tart, it might just either make you smile or make you wistful, or certainly have you emotionally engaged with just a very special piece of magic, in my humble opinion. So that's coming 2:00 this Sunday. We are working furiously on it, trying to get it into some kind of entertainment for you. So that's coming. Sunday magic, Father Christmas on YouTube. Genuinely, Father Christmas on YouTube. And I won't have you say anything other. We got him via a landline. In fact, it must have been one of those satellite phones up in the North Pole. We recorded it, or we did it live. It wasn't recorded, it was live as you hear it. And it was Christmas Eve, 24th of December 1999. Just beautiful. Hope you enjoy it. Stephen Hall, was Belfield answering the phone? Don't think so. I mean, he was one of the people that answered my phones, but I think he might have done the evenings when Leighton was doing lunchtimes. But look, if you don't like it, but if you do, thank you. Warren Francis, Adrian, you're 1,000 times more genuine than that dickweed Alex Bell knows. I'll be really happy for when you hit 60,000 followers. Then it will all come. Keep it at it. Thank you, Warren. That's very kind of you. The lives I don't monetize. And I don't monetize because there's information in the lives that, well, you know, we get past the censors. And I've told you the story before. When I talked about illegal immigrants on all of my radio stations, the one boss came in to me and went, "Oh, Adrian, man." I was like, "What's wrong now?" "Oh, will you stop mentioning the illegal immigrants?" I was like, "What for?" "Oh, I'm getting heat, man. I'm getting heat." I was like, "Hang on, you're the boss. How can you be getting heat?" I don't know who he was getting heat from, but he was getting heat. So I said, "Right." He said, "Look, give me your word that you won't mention illegal immigrants." And I said, "All right then. I won't mention them again, ever." So I went on air that night. "So these economic migrants." Oh, honestly, I normally didn't get to sleep like 3 o'clock in the morning. 8:30 in the morning, next morning, in my office, half an hour. So, all right, boss. Oh, what? I mean, he gave me a good old roll again, but it was like, oh, come on, man, this is what we do. I mean, the listening figures were huge in South Wales, and that's why we had huge listening figures, because the truth is the truth is the truth. So, tonight, on this particular live, we're going to talk about the Royals in a second. We're going to talk about Boris. His bloody hair, man. I'm going to talk Boris at the COVID inquiry. Question for you. You can stick it in the comments if you want. John Drizzle, best radio DJ ever. Who's that then? Stick it in the comments. Was he bumbling or was he believable? Was Boris bumbling or believable? And have you noticed how he looks like his dad? How old Boris now? Is he in his 50s or 60s yet? But he looks like his dad. That'll be his dad that made millions out of HS2. Didn't you know? And who's that Charlotte Owen in the House of Lords? 29-year-old. Dame Charlotte Owen. How does that work? You haven't done your research? I need your help. Like, there's a really famous guy, really very wealthy now. I mean, you know, the Wagner Group, they asked $6.2 billion out of the CIA. And not shortly after, the leader of the Wagner Group dies in a plane crash. And he dies in a plane crash because the Russians told the Americans, "Oh, he's dead, he died in a plane crash." So he takes off. Who do you think took the other half? Where is he? Is he in South America having plastic surgery as we speak? Vladimir Putin, he's like world famous. Everybody knows him. He's the boss of Russia. Where's he gone? I mean, I know it's coming. I know the communists, and I know they don't celebrate Christmas sometimes. They celebrate something else. But Vladimir Putin, MIA, missing in action. Possibly with $3.1 billion in his trouser pocket, but he could make more than that from flogging off all the stuff in Russia, which I'm sure he might have done. Mind you, if you don't hear from me again, he's living around the corner. I want to ask you a really honest question. Is the BBC worth £3.8 billion? So what we're getting from the BBC, is it worth £3.8 billion? In the comments again, please. And also, we'll get to this in a moment. It is very serious, but it has very serious implications. What happened to the news coming out of Dublin? Stabbing in Dublin. Kicks off proper. And then all of a sudden, nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nix, nada, nothing. No. I've trained with the Dublin boys. My ninja buddies, evening chaps and chapesses. I trained with something called the BBD. Ninjutsu is my martial art. So we train with everything. Open-handed technique. It's like judo, karate, jiu-jitsu. It's like everything rolled into one. It's like for me, in my view, the premier martial art. It's an art, not a sport. And the headquarters was just off O'Connell Street, I'm sure. It's called the BBD, the Bajinkan Brine Dojo, and the people involved with that martial art, the head, Brian McCarthy, are just wonderful, wonderful people. So I've been to Dublin many times, trained there many times, but nothing. A day or two, kicks off, and then nothing. The fact that it's nothing. I did ask a question in a poll. Conor McGregor seems poised to run for the president of Ireland. He's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And I said, would you vote for him? And do you know, the current poll stands, 59% said yes, and 41% said no. And some people, I'll get to them in the comments, but some people are like, what? So let's, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through something. I'm going to walk you through the royals, Meghan's big announcement. She's not pregnant. She's never been pregnant. Well, she has. She was pregnant when she was about 17 or 18. But she's not since then. The Harry's, just not hers. In my view, Lee Jones, you're funny. Conor McGregor is too busy on the sniff to be president of Ireland. Can you imagine? So let's just kind of walk our way through the minefield and nightmare that is having a family or being part of a family like the royal family. I mean, how dysfunctional do they have to be? And I get the newspapers every day, number of them, and I look at like today's. Hang on, we'll go with this one. So today it's like, yeah. What does it say? Glorious royal show of unity. Oh yes, royal show of unity. So they get their sash and their blingy bits in the newspapers. Is that the best they've got? Now, I love my royal family. I love this nation's heritage. It stretches back thousands of years. But there is a news story that they always go to when they're kind of in a panshite. And it's Big Willie flogging the big issue. How many times have you seen him in the newspapers flogging the big issue? Now, you know, I'm sure he's down to his last 10 billion, but Big Willie always pitches up. I'll go and flog the big issue again. And you just think, have they struck Harry and Meghan off the Sandringham Christmas list? Have they like, you're blown out, Harry. Up yours, mate. And Meghan, take your missus with you. How would you deal with this family? I mean, Charles. You know, who's that? Tower Block Tracy. 120 watching, 42 thumbs. How you smash the likes, man. If you could, please. That would be... Well, if you're not enjoying it, then, you know, don't. But how would you deal with this family? If it was your family, would you, like, bang their heads together? Would you, like, here, have a word with yourself? Wind your neck in? Now, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was saying that, you know, like, men can't... And in 2023, it probably will seem very old-fashioned. But where I'm from, we're very old-fashioned. We stand by standards. And if I had a brother that was like at it, if my brother's wife was, you know, a bit lippy, I'd go to my brother and say, oi, get your missus to wind her neck in. I'll deal with you. I'm not dealing with her. You deal with her. She's your wife, but I'll deal with you. I mean, you know. So it's kind of old-fashioned, but... And Big Willie's had him by the chin, by the necklace. How many men call that round their neck a necklace? I know no man that calls it a necklace, because that's what women wear. I wonder if it was Megan. So Big Willie had him by the neck. Right, you're wrong. Do you know that Endgame has only sold 6,448 copies in 5 days? You know this multi-million selling. It's only sold 6,448 copies in 5 days. I bet Harry bought most of those. I jest, of course. But if you kind of take it that we know that Meghan wants to be a protected international person. She wants to be a pip. It's comedy opening. I'll leave it for you. Yeah, exactly. John Drizzle says he needs to... Oh, he needs one to cover up the thumbprint on his forehead. Tablock Tracy is partial to a pearl necklace. So she, because he's a blood prince. He was born prince. 1999. He doesn't need that. And he's saying, you know, this court case. Now, they're saying it's 2.5 to 3 days. But I've seen a headline last night after day one saying he's lost the court case. And I thought, hang on, how can he lose the court case? Still got 3 days to go. And then there's no reporting at all in the newspaper. Apart from, it's going to cost the taxpayer, I'm not sure how this works, but it's going to cost the taxpayer £1 million. So the lawyers still get paid, the barristers still get paid, but Brillo pad head? Hang on a second. Was that? I'm looking at my feed and I have a very peculiar look on my face. Looks like it's stalled. So can somebody just give me the thumbs up and let me know that I'm not talking to myself? God. So Henry or Harold, or I mean, why can't he make up which name he wants to use? He has said, just call me Harry. So we call him Harry, and then he goes, no. Okay, live, let's just do this, see what that, oh, God, let's see. Oh, right, okay. Brilliant, thank you very much for that. So, Harry and his Brillo pad, he wants to be on the same level as Meghan. But he can never be by blood. And when he comes over here, Blighty, he's always protected. If he's on royal duty, he is protected. If he goes to meet with the royal family, he is protected. It's only when he drags her along, is he not? Well, she's not. So, Keith James, I thought was a lip trading channel. So, getting reports of an active shooter in the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. That's literally just come in on the wires. Not the British media, foreign media. Active shooter in LA. So I've got a feeling that all this furore, this court thing, is for her. It's to keep her quiet. Just, yes, dear. No, dear. 3 bags full, dear. So I'd love to know how you would deal with... I mean, every family has a black sheep. Harry's the ginger sheep. So we will see what the outcome of the court case is. But the royal family, man, so I'm going to ask you a really honest, straight question. Do you think that King Charles III is a weak king? Because I keep seeing, and I know not to believe the press, but I keep seeing this overarching story arc, which is, oh, I love Harry, from Charles. I love Harry and I'll always support him. And like the whole of this country is just recoiling in horror, going, oh, Charles, no. So is he a weak king? Because if I'd pulled some stunts like this with my dad, I just wouldn't, I'd hate to think what he would have done. He wouldn't, I mean, you know, we call a spade in the northeast. He absolutely wouldn't stand for it. And he would have said to me, oi, sort your missus out. I'll sort you out. Sort the missus out. Because you know this, unless they're playing a game of very high stakes, and the stakes are getting rid of her, gone. So how can they do that? Well, Boston Breaks technique's not going to count anymore. Can't do that twice. So, John Drizzle, Mr. Hewitt is the Ginger Winger's dad. That's what everybody thinks. But I've got a feeling it was somebody else. Have a look at the godfather of Archie. Looks very much like Harry. And there's also a duke up in Cumbria somewhere. Duke of Lancaster, possibly. One of the dukes up there. Looks awfully like Harry. More than Hewitt. Haven't you heard that? So, I don't know whether... So the original story was this, and Harry said it in the Oprah interview, and I have a copy of the Oprah interview for my... I can't even bloody say it. For my archive. I'm allowed to. On my telly. So, the original accusation was that one person in the royal family, and Harry was party to a conversation that included King Charles, then Prince of Wales, and Camilla, Queen Camilla, then just Horseface. So, how did Catherine get into this then? And you know that Omid Scrotum sent, no, it was his agent that sent the manuscript to Holland to be translated. So I think the defense we've had from the author isn't ringing true. Harry's story saying he was in a conversation with his dad, and his missus. There's nobody else involved. And it was pre-Meghan and her moon bump. So, as I say, how would you do? They're so dysfunctional. They've got, like, they're possibly the richest people on planet Earth. Oh, forget Elon Musk. This family have got jewels worth more than Elon Musk's got. I mean, Elon Musk's not short of a bob or billions. But they've got a diamond that's priceless. They've got art that's priceless. Priceless. So you can't have enough money to buy it. They've got an art collection that the whole planet couldn't afford. And yet they just go through this charade. Now, not only has Vladimir Putin gone missing in action, where's Andrew? Yeah, where's our Andrew? He's probably off at the Pizza Express. So let's get into Boris, the blonde bombshell. Why would you Lee Jones, did anything happen to the Royals about all those missing kids in Canada? Oh, Lee, not sure what you're saying there. Never heard that one. I do hear quite a bit. And a lot of it I don't bring to the channel. Because literally, men in dark suits and sunglasses at night would turn up at my front door. Oh, sorry, Chris Muddy's babysitting. So, this COVID inquiry, the hindsight police, they've all been drafted into town. So, I don't know whether you've seen any of it, but I watched Cummings and I watched Hancock, and I'm watching young Boris. He's back tomorrow for another round. And I think, although the cut and thrust of the inquiry is fabulous to watch, they're saying the inquiry is about learning lessons rather than apportioning blame. Excuse me. I don't think that this, like an inquiry that comes back with unlawful killing for Diana, is completely different to an inquiry into a situation where they denied us our freedoms. Tens of thousands of people died because of what went on. The leadership was soulless, inept. They're all throwing each other under the bus because they don't want to be found wanting at any level, because they want to go into commerce and work for big companies and make millions. Will do, Chris. So Boris was a bit argumentative, but Hugo Keith doesn't lose his cool. Hugo Keith is just knows what the job is, gets the job done, but is brutal. I mean, so Boris, who now looks like his dad, which is unfortunate, but he says, "Oh, I'm anxious about lockdowns without a vaccination plan." He was telling this to his team. He was telling this to the inquiry today. I was anxious about lockdowns without a vaccination plan. Now, do you know something? I mean, that's come out of his gob today. But I remember when he was talking to the scientific advisors, where he was like, "Oh yes, yes, herd immunity," and I remember watching it, thinking, "Wow, hang on a second, where's that come from?" So we're going from everybody being vaccinated to having a herd immunity. And I remember getting COVID first time around. I remember going, all the money that was spent, the billions and billions and billions of our money. I mean, why couldn't they? Look, they had enough money spent on stuff, PPE and Nightingale hospitals, and it amounted to billions. They could have gone and given everybody £1 million in this country, the amount of money that they spent. So when I thought that I had COVID, we went to the local testing drive-through. Me and the new Mrs. Allen both got tested at exactly the same time. And I don't know about you, but I was slightly worried about the unknown. We were getting all this information. It wasn't coming from the politicians. They were saying, "Oh, well, you can't go out. You've got to stay in." And then, "Oh, you can go out if there's 3 of you." And, "Oh, you can go out if you're jogging. Or you can go out if you're taking the dog for a walk." I mean, I know one of the local dog owners, he used to rent his dog out. So we're not stupid as human beings, but there was that initial worry. So I went there and got it stuck up my nose, and then, yeah, and they're like, "Oh, don't wind your window down." "What do you mean? How am I going to give you this then?" "Oh, just wind it down a little bit." I've just felt like going, "Here, half." But at that moment, and I was one of the high-risk groups, because I'm a good-looking guy from Sunderland. I'm joking, of course, I'm being facetious. But I was one of those high-risk groups. And now we're hearing of the simple ineptitude from our leaders. The people that not only do we vote them into power, but we have to trust them. And I don't trust this lot as far as I can spit them. And I've got a feeling that they will be literally obliterated at the general election in May. Obliterated. As a political party, I think they're finished. I think we've seen through everything. And these are the people who came up with massive amounts of money for deals with friends who they gave spurious contracts to. Yet they keep you and I under the cosh, telling us it's a cost of living crisis. It wasn't the cost of the PPE and the profit margins in the contracts that they gave out willy-nilly to anybody. I mean, how many backhanders did they take? It was corrupt. The whole thing was corrupt. That's what this inquiry needs to have the answers to. A, where did it start and how? As in, was it the lab in Wuhan? We keep being told by various whistleblowers it was that lab in Wuhan that the Chinese takeaway came from. It's not good enough. People died. And the cavalier, the way the public purse was raided was nothing short of corrupt. I've got 2 words to back that up. Michelle Mone. And what's happened to her? Nothing. Now, there was a slide presented today, and it was the WhatsApp messages. Now, it really got me a little confused because we were told Boris won't release his WhatsApp messages. Who's that coming from? Dickite Sunak? Is that who is using the media to go, ooh, Boris, Boris, Boris? Prime Monster still has to sit in front of KC Hugo Keith. Let's see how he gets on. Obviously, he'll have to sit on a couple of cushions so people can see him over the top of the desk. But there was this slide in the inquiry that I took great interest in. Yeah, Chris Money makes a very good point. Don't forget, though, Adrian, Labour wanted to lock down for longer with tougher rules. Oh, let me tell you, Keir Starmer, first thing he's going to do when he gets into power, if he gets into power, because it's going to be a hung parliament. So who's he going to have a coalition with? Nigel Farage. Because the Tories are done, unless they go under Suella. Just in my view. And the first job that Starmer's going to do is get us back into Europe. 17 million, virtually half of the voting public in this country voted to leave. Now, whether you wanted to stay or whether you wanted to leave is entirely down to your personal choice. But now that we've had the vote and we've made the decision and the majority decided to do a particular thing, you can't go back on that because van der Leyen and the Europeans are going, oh, come back. Come back. Well, I'll point you towards the German economy, which is tanking. I'll show you the German economy that's tanking, and they're squealing like stuck pigs saying, no, we don't want any more migrants. But Starmer, remember Jimmy Savile's file went across his desk, and what did he do? NFA, no further action. Jimmy Savile, most prolific paedophile in our history of this sceptred isle. And he went, no further action. That's your boy Starmer. So, I was watching this thing. And I took a while to look at it. And what Boris was saying in his WhatsApp messages was, he said, 1, the thing was too big. I'm being serious here. The thing was too big and the curve was too aggressive because they didn't know what was going on. They were relying on the scientists. And what did they do? Get a knighthood. Secondly, I was looking at the way that they were communicating amongst each other, and the communications were just pants. They were awful. Nobody was taking the lead. The Prime Minister should have been saying to the scientists, thank you, I've taken that on board. Thank you. Now, Foxtrot Oscar. What we're going to do is herd immunity. He wanted to follow what Sweden did. But they were, in essence, saying to us, do as I tell you, not as I do. And Boris seemingly got COVID, but then he nearly died. But then it comes out, well, no, actually he didn't. So you never know who to believe. These snake oil sellers, how can you tell when a politician's lying? What's that? Stephen Hall Ferguson's wonderful predictions. Well, you're going to have to fill me in a little bit more on that, Stephen. And finally, the BBC are reporting Boris. Boris, the clown, the BBC reporting the moment Boris got choked up whilst giving evidence. What the hell? He says we may have made mistakes. He says we underestimated the speed. And he said in his WhatsApp messages, we have no idea how many COVID deaths are truly additional. There were people in Nottingham who sadly had a relative that died from a heart attack. And it was put down as the Kung flu. And they were saying, hang on, they died from a heart attack. Stephen Hall, Boris never lost weight during COVID. Should try a gastric sleeve. That boy's never going to lose weight. Junior Stevens, Boris has got a screw loose. Chris Mundy, I remember listening to 5 Live one evening when Boris was apparently in hospital, in ICU. They interviewed an on-duty doctor live on air, and it came across as very scripted. Boris, his own words from his WhatsApp messages, we have no idea how many COVID deaths are truly additional. 2, when COVID fatalities are recorded, we have no idea whether it is merely presented actually as the cause of death. And third, it's the fourth one that got me, but third, we have no idea what proportion may have had the disease asymptomatically already. But here's the one that got me. Boris said, and I quote, "So we have taken these extraordinary steps without being truly sure how deadly it is." You try telling that to the relatives of people that died. There's no care. There's no empathy. There's just nothing from these clowns. I know the psychopaths, but people lost loved ones and they don't give a flying. They're just bothered about their own necks and how much money they're going to make. As Boris said, the cruelty of the decisions we had to take. We may have made mistakes. We got some things wrong. We did our level best. That's not what you're in power for, bonny lad. Seemingly, he gave all of his WhatsApp messages to and KC Hugo Keith. Sort of set out their stalls at the beginning. He said, "I'm sorry," and the KC said, "Yeah, you've given us everything that we've asked for. There's just a 6-month missing from your WhatsApp messages." And Boris was trying to say, "Oh well, me phone went down." Sorry, I was telling myself some gags in there. So what's the message that's coming out of the inquiry? I know somebody mentioned the W word a little earlier. I think it's heading there. But if Hugo Keith can get an unlawful killing verdict representing the Queen for Diana's death, then I'm not so sure that it is going to be a whitewash. I'm just trying to work out who is going to be thrown under the bus and is going to carry the can for this. And there was nothing from Dominic Cummings' Twitter account today. Oh, by the way, if you are on Twitter, it's at Adrian Allen. Still there. So there were exhaustive cabinet discussions. Dominic Cummings was making some of the decisions on behalf of Boris. He was in charge of the country, including when he was driving up to Barney Castle. So they were asking if Dominic Cummings was misogynistic, incompetent, and if things were in disarray. And somebody, I think it was a WhatsApp message from Mark Sedwell to Boris, said, lots of top draw people refusing to come to the because of the toxic reputation of your operation. In other words, I'm not going to come and work for that clown. And then there was a great turn of phrase, the Dominic orgy of narcissism. Boris said, look, people were stepping aside from central government. People were getting very frazzled because they were working so hard. Ask Matt Hancock. 50 grand, Matt Hancock spent on takeaways for his team. Oh, some of them are working 18 hours a day. 50 grand. What was he buying them? Caviar? Be lucky to get a kebab. Caviar kebab. And then they touched on Boris. Terry Wookfit, Hancock, Van Tam and Ferguson. 'Twasn't Boris' fault. Never Boris' fault. No, he'll take the job again if it's offered. And I think, before I continue on with the point I was going to make, I think today we've had PMQs. So the Prime Monster got up in the dispatch box. We've had Boris on the telly all day today. And then we've had Suella going, right, And I watched the speech. Liz Truss was sitting not far away from Suella in the camera angle. That's not a mistake, let me tell you. Cummings and Hancock. There was a gag there. Yeah. Asked Matthews Paramore. So Casey, Hugo, Keith was asking, and do you know that Boris, Cobra, the kind of the emerge, we keep being told, oh, Cobra meeting, it's the very, very important people doing a very, very important thing. And Boris missed 5 of them. I mean, he missed 5 Cobra meetings. That's like multi-agency meeting, and he missed 5 of them. Who was there taking the meeting? Matt Hancock did some of them. Dominic Cummings doing any of them? And Boris kept quoting things that had been said in this inquiry. So he's been watching it, like me and you. He's been watching it. It's not very entertaining. There was a point where I was just thinking, oh, my brain hurts. I'm getting overload here. I need to walk away from this. So I went and took a weight off my mind and came back, and my head was still pounding from this how Hugo Keith just measured, calm, brutal. So, will the Power, the 1922 committee, be watching these 3 miscreants today on telly, watching how they were getting on? Well, Starmer gave Sunak a proper kicking, schoolboy, proper kicking at PMQs. Boris held his own. Honestly, we could have such fun tonight. It's so Boris held his own in the Kung Flu inquiry, and then Suella. I mean, it wasn't How. That was the MP's name. How. Oh, if you're old enough. And it was like, I watched it and I was like, Suella, is that it? You're a barrister and that's it? Oh, I support the Prime Minister. They're all just looking for the next job. I mean, Rich Boy don't need one because his missus is worth $1 billion, so he don't need one. He needs to get a suit with longer trousers. That's why I think he's a schoolboy. You notice when you got your first set of long trousers, or am I too old now? Because everybody from 2-year-old wears jeans. Robert Jenrick quits. Yep, thank you, Cliff. We got that. Who else is going to quit overnight? They all think they're going to lose their seat at the next election, general election in May. So, in Suella's speech today, she said, she was talking about immigration, as she does, and she was saying, yeah, we need to get this sorted. We need to get the British immigration bill sorted. So everybody needs to come in over Christmas. And you could see all the other MPs going, whoa, Suella, I'll back you, but I'm not coming in over Christmas, man. It's Christmas. I like to drink me cooking sherry by the vat load. I'm not coming back in to muck about in here. I'm off for a month. Because they're about to take their Christmas break in, a couple of weeks. And then they don't come back till June. So they were quoting figures. And Hugo Keith didn't get the figures right. He said there was a 1% fatality rate. I think it was between 0.01 and 0.05. There was at least a 99% survival rate. I survived it twice. Second one wasn't funny. Second one was worse than the first one. Second one, I thought I was a goner. So the inquiry's already heard from Dominic Cummings, who described Johnson as the trolley, due to the way he would change direction on things, and Lee Kane, who suggested he didn't have the skill set to deal with the pandemic. That's funny. Boris Johnson, the trolley. Change direction, you can't keep control of it. And you can hear the squeaking from a mile away. So we've had the ex-PM's defence. I'm not going to go on any longer, but I'm going to give you 3 questions that should have been presented. Johnson said, I had to go through the arguments. He was fighting fire, but he didn't know how to deal with people that were making money. Somebody got a sir out of it. I want to know who had shares in either big pharma companies or PPE companies, whether the scientists or the MPs. I want to know who made money out of this. We know Michelle Mone, but I want to know who made the money. Always follow the money. So a question for Boris. So Johnson responds to the inquiry's 3 direct questions. According to Hugo Keith, the inquiry has 3 direct questions for Boris. Firstly, he asks the former Prime Minister, was it his position lockdown was absolutely necessary? And Boris answered, I believe that it was, and believe that it helped to suppress the R rate. Secondly, if the government had acted sooner, could the need for a mandatory stay-at-home order have been avoided? Boris says he doubts this in his view. And thirdly, Hugo Keith asked if the lockdown could have been imposed earlier had the government not been blindsided by behavioural fatigue and herd immunity and had a better understanding of data. Boris said the only condition he accepts is data. Now, we know what was going on in Italy. He kept quoting the Italians. The Italians had a tough time of it. But he was like, no. We were right down the league of how many people caught it and how many people did this and how many people did that. And Hugo Keith went, no. We were the second worst in Europe. No, said Boris. I think we were 16th. And Hugo Keith, without labouring the point, said, no. So there was a bit of... But Boris said, you see, the data, that was the key thing which Sage lacked and was the sudden appreciation we were much further along the curve than they thought. So they were looking at modelling, and there was I can't remember the names or the exact person, but there was a model that they were following, and it was proven that that person and their modelling hadn't been accurate before and wasn't going to be accurate then. Turns out that view was correct. So let me round Boris off with this. Jennifer Arcuri. Seemingly, she said they had an affair. Boris Johnson says they didn't. So, who are you going to believe? The fake blonde with big tits? Or Jennifer Arcuri? I shouldn't laugh at my own gags, but I've been chuckling at that all day. I was going to talk about, I do want to sort of put this on your radar. I keep saying this, but it is important. A, is it Nigel to win? Do we want Farage to come out king of the jungle? It looks like that Josie, because obviously ITV, who broadcast I'm a Celeb, want her to have a higher profile, so she could get queen of the jungle. But Nigel to win? Was he doing I'm too sexy for my shirt? I haven't seen it for a couple of days because it's beginning to bore me. But, you know, that's just a personal view. You might love it. You might watch every single second that's broadcast of it. Who was that? Proper spat me coffee out there, Adrian. Thanks. I want to put this on your radar. Now, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I told you that Vladimir Zelensky was going to start to be portrayed as an egocentric egomaniac. He was going to be portrayed in a particular way. Now, Zelensky, Vladimir, has spat his dummy out. He's cancelled a US Senate address as aid for Ukraine hits a dead end. Now, I said to you that the media were going to portray him in a certain way because the West had given him enough money not to lose the war, but they hadn't given him enough money to win the war. I mean, can you imagine? That's going to stop his missus going to Paris on shopping trips. So, President of Ukraine, Zelensky, warns any postponement of US aid creates big risk it will lose the war with Russia. We don't even know where Vladimir Putin is, man. The rumours are he had a heart attack weeks ago. He's never been seen since. So who's running Russia? Who's taking the money? Now, you know the Klitschko brothers, the boxers. Vitaly Klitschko is mayor of Kiev. So why have they changed the name to Kiev? It's always been Kiev. I've always had chicken Kievs. I've not had chicken Kievs. So Vitaly Klitschko has said that Zelensky is turning the Ukraine into an authoritarian state, just like Russia. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky is becoming an autocrat. This is according to Vitaly Klitschko, an autocrat who is reshaping Ukraine into an authoritarian state, no different than Russia. That's Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. At some point, we will no longer be any different from Russia, where everything depends on the whim of one man, Klitschko has said in a new interview with the German news outlet Der Spiegel. Klitschko, who has served as the mayor of Kiev since 2014, he's been, 9 years? And also praised the fellow mayors or regional governors for thwarting Ukraine's descent into authoritarianism. Told you. He's going to be portrayed in the mainstream media as a madman who will be told, broker a peace deal with Russia. They're not interested. The powers are not interested in Ukraine anymore. They've had 18 months of washing their money. They don't care. It's corrupt. War makes people very rich. So now they've got another one that they're having a dance with. So Zelensky, mate, just go and have a word with Vladimir, the Putin boy, and just come to some kind of agreement that we can all agree to, and let's just have peace in Ukraine. I mean, I'm paraphrasing and I'm being facetious, but I have predicted that to you. And now it appears that it's starting. Sometimes it's very easy to see, but they expect you just to go, oh, I'm not interested. Well, I am. Always. I'm going to ask you for your opinion on Holly Willoughby. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read an email that I received today. And I'm going to read it as is. It's an anonymous email and it'll stay like that. But I'm going to read it. But I'm also going to go to your comments because I put a video up about Holly and Scove. And the reporting was Holly's taken it, and again I'm paraphrasing, Holly's taken a step back She's taking a step back because it's a bit too much. There's things going on. She's taking a step back. So she's paused her £1 million agreement with Marks and Spencer's. What happens today? Marks and Spencer's come out and go, oh, we've got Holly's favourite jumper in stock. She loves it. She said she loved it in September. She loves it now. Make a perfect Christmas present. And I looked at it and thought, what are you doing? She said she's stepping back. You're saying, no, but she loves this jumper. Trying to, I can't say anything without swearing. Because it frustrates me that these people think we're fools. And we can see right through these idiots who are, yeah, buy this jumper. It'll make us a few bob. Well, no, let's not. Why don't we stop buying? Well, I wouldn't because I'm a bloke. But people stop buying the stuff that Holly Willoughby's promoting simply because Marks and Spencer said so. She's getting £1 million for Marks and Spencer to be able to use her name. And she's already told us, I'm taking a step back. All right, man, 3 weeks to Christmas. Back off. So let me read this email. And there's lots and lots and lots of information in here. This is someone that obviously has their finger on the pulse. This is somebody that knows stuff that is not in the mainstream media. So listen to this because you'll get information that you won't get anywhere else. Adrian, looks like Boris is back in the news today, appearing at the COVID inquiry to tell us all how it was a serious pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Decisions were taken purely on health grounds, not removing or preparing the ground for the removal of individual freedoms. Here's a good one, though. Boris had deleted several thousand WhatsApp messages, supposedly with a factory reset, which weren't presented and won't be presented to the inquiry in the future. They could easily be recovered from WhatsApp itself, but with the right encouragement. However, they won't be. It's a bit like Hillary Clinton's emails. Incidentally, a little-known decision by Boris may make the news sometime in the future. Boris went over to the Ukraine to encourage them not to have any form of cessation of hostilities with the Russians within the first month of the war starting. Lots of promises of money, military aid, and other support for them. But one thing Boris promised and did deliver on was the use of our special forces to act as bodyguards for Zelensky. Yes, there is half an SAS squadron deployed as close protection teams for the Ukrainian president, and they have been over there since just after the start of the war. Plus attached support, possibly totaling just under 40 men. Don't worry though, that job's coming to an end. No planned support for that little job after the end of February. That is, if it even lasts that long. It's probable that Zelensky will either be taken out by his own side permanently or whisked away to a new life in the US. Apparently, the US Secret Service have contingencies to push through US citizenship and protect him with Secret Service teams. Permanently. As head of the biggest US money laundering scam, he deserves some protection, eh? This is from an anonymous source. So can we expect to see peace break out in Eastern Europe in the spring? Maybe. Oh, except for one thing. Mad, bad Vlad. No one has told Putin that the war will end, so he hasn't agreed to anything. I think Putin will continue in his original plans and advance to recover half of Ukraine. Then pull back, but only if a buffer zone is established protecting the Donbas. Oh, and for Ukraine to never join NATO. Interesting times ahead, eh? Should be fun. This way, this is fed to the Western public. It's fun to see that all the ground, a few hundred metres, taken in this year's Ukrainian offensive we paid so much for has been taken back by the Russians. There wasn't any major announcements about Ukraine conscripting women to fight at the front lines either. Strange, that one. Hasn't Zelensky lost 125,000 Ukrainian men in the war? Maybe our governments and media have been telling us the odd untruth. LMAO. I don't know if you have seen it, but have a look for a video conference between ex-Irish President, UN and WEF Stooley, Mary Robinson, and the chairman of COP28, Sultan Al-Jaber. That's not jibber jabber, it's just jabber. He challenged her to provide reliable evidence for fossil fuels needing to be urgently phased out. She couldn't and didn't. Just quoted the usual garbage. It's interesting with the COVID inquiry, though. They haven't really discussed the jibber jabbers and liability immunity, especially when it's come out now, both in the US and Australia. A certain big pharma didn't do any real testing on the safety and efficacy of the jibber jabbers. That would make the immunity invalid, as the jibber jabber manufacturers committed fraud to get the stuff pushed through for emergency use. Nor will they discuss the link between the jibber jabbers and excess deaths, since the jibber jabbers were introduced. Funny old thing, that, isn't it? If you're going to do any research tonight or tomorrow, just research Barry Young in New Zealand, who stood up for humankind. This is me, not the email. I'll get back to the email in a second, but the shenanigans that's going on in New Zealand at the moment. They've arrested him. They're trying to, the data that came out via a New Zealand MP, they're all trying to scrape that back and not have anybody have access to it. And like I say, Barry Young, New Zealand. See if you can find it on the net, because you won't find it in the mainstream media. Boris is saying he was told about how dangerous the Kung flu was. He forgot to mention it was simply as dangerous as a bad flu to most people. Funny how there are no, as is none, recorded flu deaths during the pandemic, isn't it? He was also told lockdowns wouldn't stop it, unless they were total lockdowns. Strange how the first lockdown was so the NHS could gear up for high casualties, yet it didn't really flatten the curve, except on Van Tam and Ferguson's grossly exaggerated models. But as the NHS had been geared up, why have any further lockdowns? Unless, of course, the idea was to destroy the British economy. Unless you're the Chancellor and you want to short the British pound. Oh, did I say that out loud? Another point the inquiry won't touch is how many of the Cabinet and MPs in general acquired stocks and shares in the jibber jabber companies or manufacturer suppliers of PPE. Didn't hear Matt Hancock get asked any questions about his local pub owner being awarded government contracts for PPE, did you? As for the Middle East being used for the latest round of money laundering, one thing that's slowly coming to the fore in the US is Israel has nuclear weapons. I wonder if Biden and co actually realise it's illegal both under US and international law to supply any nuclear-armed country with military aid in times of conflict. Think that will be hidden from the public, as well as the fact that the US knows Israel has nukes. The US service and recondition them. The US supplied Israel with the equipment, centrifuges and things, to enrich the uranium in the first place. Thank you, Anonymous. That's a very insightful email. Couple of quick comments and we'll round it off in the next 5 minutes or so. Talblock Tracy, how many MPs have taken the juice as they didn't have to be jibber-jabbered or tested to enter the Houses of Parliament or the House of Lords? That's a very good question. Oh, yeah, Michael Yeadon had a lot of mainstream media airtime, then vanished from the media. Interesting. So I asked you for your comments, for your opinions on whether Conor McGregor, as it seems he's going to go for the presidency of Ireland, whether you would vote for him. And Keith James said, I wouldn't argue with him. Ride the Bomb, Treble 7. The man is a showboater and a big mouth. He also likes to get into confrontations when out in public and lashes out with his fists. Not to mention he knows nothing of politics and diplomacy. Yeah, but he's got, what, nearly £1 billion in the bank? Look at the Donald. Mad Matt UK. I don't know enough about him to vote, Adrian. Hope you're having a good week. Best wishes. Thank you, Mad Matt. Bad Wolf Project. Can he do a worse job than anybody else? And does he belong to the WAF? John Deegan. Conor McGregor isn't the best presidential material. He has a court case next year for driving his Bentley uninsured. Didn't know that. Where'd you get that from, John? I've not seen that anywhere in the press. And then the Holly and Scove. A couple of quick comments to round the evening off. Mid-morning for the BBC. Cliff Cook. Well, there's 2 shows I won't be watching. Oh, brutal Cliff. Christine Davis. I'm glad the Keith Lemon show is no longer on air. It is, in my opinion, was a gutter show. Nomad Preppers List. Yeah, Adrian. Can we have some Belfield tales from your personal archives for our Christmas treat, please? Ooh, that's a good idea. A bit like I always look forward to the Christmas ghost story on TV every year. But the last few years, these have become crap. Well, I'll do my best, Nomad Preppers. Or is that Damon? Trey Ripond. Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. Scoff and Holly. Do that at your peril. People will switch off in their droves. And an even bigger brother says, if it wasn't for the bottom feeders, we would have no clue about the mainstream media creep show. Brutal. Busby Tree Surgery. Phil the Groomer is back. How surprising. DJ Bethel. This is relentless. I know they don't give up. Every day there's a different story. But the purpose of me doing the videos is so that it's there as an archive so that you can see what they've done on their road to return. They're not multi-millionaires for nothing. These people are savvy and sharp and ruthless. Richard Butler. Both shows will sink, actually. Philip will be like trying to get Barrymore back mainstream. If The Elf ever comes out, could be game over. Holly has a better chance of something, but she isn't really anything of a draw now. Yeah. Can you buy silence nowadays? Stuart. They were the king and queen of daytime TV. It's no surprise, really, that they're going to make a comeback. I just don't see them ever presenting a show together again. With all that's happened between them, I could be wrong. Only time will tell. Thanks for another great video, Adrian. Really enjoy the videos and live streams. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Stuart. Really appreciate it. Cameron James. You're wrongin'. You just never know. It's Auntie Beeb. She loves her wrong'uns, does Auntie. Jam-packed with them. Good to hear from you, Cameron. Be well. Stay safe. Billy Wilson. The people will decide if it happens with the telly buttons. Yeah, vote with your feet. And Rusty Mouse, it never goes quiet on the Western Front with you around, Adrian. You always on the ball. Even when drinking your hibiscus tea with 10 strings hanging from the cup. I'm into the bags now. Me supplier, me dealer, has said that the hibiscus with the strings are not back until January. What am I going to do for a month? Thank you, Rusty Mouse. Dale Steele. Who's Hannah Waddington? Thank you, Stuart. Well, I didn't know who Hannah Waddington was until Eurovision. And then this woman who's 10 foot tall with 10-inch heels on, was towering over a bit. And towering over everybody. And I was thinking, oh, I'm next that. Hannah Waddington. Shut up. Did you hear that? Hang on, is it Siri or Alexa? Oh, I think I've upset it now. Alexa, have you gone to sleep? Alexa, you're not speaking to me. Alexa, are we getting divorced?
Oh. I don't know that one.
I'm not married to you, thankfully. Silent treatment. Billy Wilson. The people will decide if it happens with the telly buttons. I've explained that one into Leeds. And they want to up the bloody licence fee. Scandalous. I agree. They're talking about 160 odd quid for the new licence fee for next year. I mean, yeah. You know how the civil service works? They have what they call bands, for want of a better word. And you kind of go up and up and up, a pay scale, a pay scale, a pay scale. Let's put the BBC, everybody in the BBC on a pay scale. Make sure that it's not too much of a pay drop, but I've said to you before, I knew a guy who was doing 50 grand a year to put one package, one 4-minute package into the breakfast show a week. That's 50 a year. So it cost the BBC £1 grand for one package. What? So that's it for tonight's live. We're only on 83 likes. I'm sure we can get that over 100. We've got 120 people there. So please smash the likes because it helps the channel. It helps with the algorithm. And the AI sits there going, ooh, he's got a few people liking him. We'll promulgate it. I mean, I'm sure AI doesn't understand what promulgate means, but it'll send it out to other people to watch. So if you could, that would be lovely. Very interesting times at the moment. I'm going to watch a bit of Boris tomorrow to see if anything else comes out. The next live is this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. Another live, 10th of December. But please, we're going to put up a promo tomorrow for this lovely little program that I did. And it's not kind of, you know, tree hug and hippie shite. It's not twin set and pearls either. It's just magical through the eyes of children. Christmas and Father Christmas through the eyes of children. And it's just magical. So if you want to revisit your childhood and have that warm, fuzzy feeling, it's probably incontinence. But if you want to hear the magic of children engaging with Father Christmas, we're going to premiere it at 2 o'clock. And it'll be there and you can listen to it and revisit it all over Christmas to give you that warm, lovely feeling. My name's Adrian Allen. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. I'll see you for more videos tomorrow. Next live Sunday at 8. The premiere Father Christmas on YouTube. Never been done before. 2 o'clock this coming Sunday. Be well, stay safe. See you in the next video.